My name is Carolyn Kavanaugh, and the title of the object that I have selected is called The Ring of Priest Sianamun, and this artifact is housed in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in Manhattan. So, just a quick side note about this artifact in the museum. It's found in Gallery 127, which it also houses artifacts in dynasties 26 through 29. And in this part of the museum, it talks about art that has been preserved through a time of Egypt that it was overturned to the Persian Empire or the Persians, and it's important because the Egyptians kept their style of art. So back to the ring. So the ring is made out of gold and is 3 centimeters or 13 out of 16 inches in diameter. And the ring had belonged to priest Sianamun, who served as a religious authority in the 26th dynasty of ancient Egypt, specifically during the years of 664 to 525 BC. As mentioned earlier, the ring is pretty small in size, 3 centimeters in diameter to be specific. The ring itself has a small golden plate on the top of it in the shape of a square or a rectangle. The gold plate has 3 rows of hieroglyphics on it, in which there are several animal symbols used, indicating that the hieroglyphics need to be read from the right to the left. This is due to the fact that the way the animals were facing ultimately determines the way in which the text needs to be read. In the case of this ring, the animals are all facing to the right. Thus, one would interpret the icons of this ring from the right to the left. So I will be examining the hieroglyphics on this ring. However, I am only going to do a deep analysis on the bottom row of the ring because I have an interpretation of it. The top 2 lines are as important, but I have a summary of those 2. So I'm going to go to the bottom one first. According to Ben Tresh, on the Reddit post that I found, all the way to the bottom right, there is a duck. That means SA, which translates to sun. Then 3 icons from the left is a shape that looks like a sharp knife, but it is in fact a reed leaf, which symbolizes the letter I. 4 icons from the left, there is a crown, and with this crown, there's a small dot below it, and then below this small dot is a zigzag line. This crown is important because it symbolizes the letter N, but more importantly, it represents the preposition of. The zigzag below the crown represents a water squiggle, which signifies the 2 letters N and M. The icon all the way to the left is a seated man, in which is a word classifier, not read aloud, according to the author of the post, Ben Tresh. Now, I'm going to go through the first 2 lines of the ring, because they're still pretty important. And I don't know the exact translation for each symbol, but I'm going to go through what I think they look like just to give a complete visual analysis. So on the second row, starting from the right, there's a cane-looking structure, followed by a bird, followed by a cone, followed by 3 vertical dashed lines, followed by a snake-looking object, a small square, and then finally, all the way to the left, is a tower-looking icon. Now, looking at the top first row of this ring, there is a fish-shaped looking icon, and to the left of it is an icon that represents a board game that a lot of Egyptians used to play. To the left of this board game is a bird, falcon, similar to the one that is seen in the second row. Followed by this falcon is the cane that is also seen in the second row, and then followed by the cane is another falcon that is found also again in the third row and in the second. And these 2 lines, the 2 top lines of the ring, are still important, but Ben Tresh also notes that priest Sianamun was an overseer of horses as well as a priest, and that's what the top 2 lines are symbolizing. So, putting it all together, the top 2 rows say that priest Sianamun was an overseer of horses, and the bottom says his name, Sianamun, which means son of the god Amun. As I had mentioned in the introduction, the ring belonged to priest Sianamun, who was part of the 26th dynasty as a religious authority. Before I get into the 26th dynasty, I just want to give some background on dynasties similar to the 26th dynasty. Semitic Scholar's article notes that the finger rings have been around for 5,000 years, but were especially prevalent during the 19th dynasty. This was the case when Ramses II came into power and had a very powerful kingdom. The article notes that there were a lot of, quote, finger ring models belonging to Ramses II, carrying a lot of information about the development of the finger rings industry in the 19th dynasty. End quote. This article also highlights my chosen object, the ring of priest Sianamun, in which they note that the ring was one of the ring models similar to those of the 19th dynasty, but this ring was found to be a part of the 26th dynasty. Now, the 26th dynasty falls under the late period of Egypt, specifically the Third Intermediate. When the Assyrians withdrew from Egypt, the reign was left to the Saite kings. Pasemek I was an Egyptian-Libyan ruler of the 26th dynasty after the Assyrians withdrew from Egypt as one of the Saite kings. Under him, there was immense prosperity in the kingdom due to the single strong ruling family. There were many temples built, and more attention was paid to literary texts and art, often being referred to as a Renaissance. Other monuments created during this period were tombs for high authorities such as princesses or pharaohs. Thus, in the 26th dynasty, the creation of the ring and the perseverance of the ring, as well as creation of other similar rings, shows that Egypt was undergoing a prosperic time. This is important, and this is reflected in the types of rulers that were reigning in Egypt during that time, as I explained earlier. On a different note, talking about what Sianamun actually was, because in the ring it talks about, the hieroglyphs describe that he was the son of the god Amun. Amun was one of the most important gods in ancient Egypt, and he was responsible for the creation of the world. Britannica's article about Amun notes that Amun's influence was, in addition, closely linked to the political well-being of Egypt. Again, this is also reflected in the ring because it shows that there was wealth and prosperity in Egypt, leading people to create rings such like this. I chose this ring because I wanted to analyze an artifact that was something that we really haven't talked about in class. We talk about paintings, pottery, or even some other day-to-day artifacts that are found in ancient Egyptian society. However, I wanted to look at jewelry because I feel that jewelry is somewhat reflective of prosperity or chaos during a time of a civilization like Egypt. So I wanted to see if a ring had any connections to authority wealth or religious wealth, or what it meant in terms of the overall kingdom and the setting of which the kingdom was set.